Welcome back to Operation Football Preview. It is week 3 of the high school football season here in Ohio, and I believe most, if not all, of our teams are officially into conference games.
Yep, that's right. Except for the GWAC. Those guys are still battling outside of conference, so after week 3, the GWAC will get into the fold with those conference games. But everybody else battling it out, MVL, GCL, Southwestern Buckeye League, Three Rivers, Wowak, Ohio Heritage, MAC, you name it. They are all getting into the heart of their conference schedules. And that's where we really get to see what a lot of these teams are about, too, because we know how important the conferences are, and especially when you talk about the GWAC, one of the toughest conferences in the state of Ohio. It's a true test. It's a true gauntlet for these teams, and we really get our barometer of what these teams can do. And
really, Miami Valley, too. I've been impressed by the talent and the competitiveness in the Miami Valley.
Yeah, looking at the standings right now in the Miami Valley League, the MVL, in the Miami division, Butler is 1-0, Greenville 1-0, Tippecanoe 1-0, Troy 1-0, and Piqua 0-1 in league play. Overall, Aviators 2-0 undefeated, Greenville 2-0 undefeated. Pretty sure that is Greenville's first 2-0 season to start since 2019. So good for the Green Wave getting off to a great start. It's been a rough couple of years for them. Last year they were 0-10. The year before that they were 0-10. So good for Greenville, starting off on a high note. Tippecanoe, of course, no shocker there, 2-0. Troy 1-1. How about that bounce back win over Xenia for them? Maybe not a lot of people saw that coming. Xenia having to go up to Troy, and Troy beating them 24-14. Piqua.
I don't think Xenia was expecting it either.
No.
As we'll talk about here in a little bit, I got to talk to Xenia this week, and maybe they did see it coming, but they didn't at the same time. Yeah. They didn't see it coming in the sense that they felt like it's a game they should have won. They did see it coming in the sense that they felt like they did not have a good week of preparation.
And you have to be well prepared when you're playing conference shows, because you never know. It's just like in the NFL, you know, like we were talking about it in our 2 Sports Overtime show, which hopefully you go check out, talking about the Bengals and Browns. You know, you'd think, the Bengals, based on their star power, should be rolling the Browns every year. Joe Burrow's 3-5 in his career all time against the Browns. So it just goes to show you those conference games are tricky, and you have to prepare well for them.
Not having played football, obviously, is so different to me about football practices and preparation and the job of a football coach and the jobs of the players. In all of the sports that I played, very little scouting. I mean, even in volleyball, very little scouting. Maybe in softball there's more because of pitching, and you want to do shifts to certain hitters and stuff. And when it comes to volleyball, like you want to block a certain angle for a certain hitter because that's what they like to hit. But it's more so just going out and playing.
Right.
And it's amazing to me how much more preparation about football isn't reps and doing what you need to do best, but it's more so geared toward your opponent specifically. It's just very interesting to me how different it is from a lot of other sports.
So much game plan, right? So much game planning. The amount of film too nowadays that even high schools are watching to prepare for their opponent. The installation periods that they do of, can the scout team replicate a running game of Fairmont against Trotwood? Can a scout team replicate, a spread offense that Wayne has with a star like Jameer Everett Brown? You're not going to be able to do something like that. So how can you best prepare for these conference games? And they're tricky. And we see it really heavily, of course, in the GWAC, also in the Miami Valley League, Southwestern Buckeye League as well. And then switching over quickly to the Valley Division, Fairborn 2-0 as well. Good for the Skyhawks. They haven't had a 2-0 start since not 2024, not 2023, not 2022. 2020 was the last time the Skyhawks started 2-0. So good for Fairborn as well. Stebbins 1-1 overall. Xenia 1-1, but they hopefully will have a big bounce back here coming up in week 3, which we're going to get to here shortly. Sydney 0-2 and West Carrollton 0-2 for the Miami Valley League. So plenty going on there. We'll return to the MVL because we'll start with a recap of week 2 game of the week, which Kayler, you just keep seeing exciting finish after exciting finish at Roush Stadium. First it was Battle Kettering. This time it was week 2 game of the week. between Fairmont and Trotwood.
Yeah, another thriller at Roush Stadium and another thrilling finish. Almost the same score, too.
Right?
Yeah, Trotwood Madison was looking to get one back on Fairmont after they lost last year, and this game just continues to be as competitive as it's been over the last few years. They've now traded wins back and forth for at least the last 3. Trotwood ending up back on top this time after a very exciting final 2-minute drill to run down the field and punch it in at the very end. So Trotwood was leading 14-6 at the break, but Fairmont found a way to come back, tie it up at 14. And then Fairmont went down to score with just about 2-3 minutes left in the game to take a 21-14 lead. Rams lead a really impressive 2-minute drive down the. I mean, they were almost backed up.
That quarterback is serious.
They were almost Dallas Sheehy. They were almost backed up onto their own goal line, and they marched down the field in 2 minutes, scored a touchdown to make it 21-20. And the decision was extra point, go to overtime because there was only a couple seconds left, or go for the 2-point, win the game. And they decided to go for the 2-point. They successfully converted, and the Rams have taken back the title against Fairmont, former GWOC foes as well. So that was cool. But yeah, just another thrilling win. Dallas Sheehy, here's that 2-point conversion to end the game. You just see how close it was.
I mean, you saw it. I mean, you saw it in what he was doing in some of those other great vision, extending plays with his legs, getting out of the pocket, scrambling. Certainly the MVP of that one.
There he is right there. He had a hand in 3 of the touchdowns, whether it was he ran it in himself or passed it. And then, of course, he ran in that game-winning 2-point conversion. So if we had a player of the week, I think it would have been Sheehy last week.
No, absolutely. Undoubtedly. And he has now led Trotwood to a 2-0 record. They had that Week 1 win over Cleveland Heights. So, yeah, exciting stuff for Jeff Graham's Rams, and anytime you can come into a GWOC's home stadium, a GWOC team's home stadium rather, and a team like Fairmont, as we know, Dave Miller's hard-nosed offense of running that ball and keeping it low scoring and keeping the ball in your hands and controlling the clock, controlling the possession. That's key. They
did that, and the Rams barely had a possession in the second half until the end of the game. And, when Fairmont went up and took the lead, I was over on the sideline. Something I'm not used to is the coaches here are a lot more, they'll talk to you during the game. That I've never experienced that before, where they'll just come up to you and say stuff to you during the game. And Miller came up to me and said something, and I said, well, yeah, if you don't give them the ball back, it kind of works out pretty well, because they hadn't. The Rams had barely had a possession in the entire second half until the final 2 minutes.
Right.
And they went down and won it with those final 2 minutes. Yeah. So it was cool for Jeff Graham. He went to Alter, and so he played at Roush Stadium a lot. He said that was really cool for him. Always a surreal feeling, special feeling to be able to play at that stadium where he played so many games at himself back in high school. And dang Fairmont, they've been on the wrong end of 2 absolute heartbreakers at the very last second of the game, losing almost in not identical fashion. I mean, it was more of a fluky thing even against Alter, but
right at the end and
not much of a chance to do anything to come back. So Fairmont is 0-2. Yeah. 0-2, which is a tough spot to be.
The defending GWOC champions lost Alter Week 1, 28-21. Lost to Trotwood again at home, Week 2, 22.
And that was a strip sack, scoop and score in Week 1 at the very end of the game. So just 2 absolutely devastating losses.
And it's not like it gets any easier for Fairmont. Here is their next slate: at LaSalle, a tough Cincinnati team, at Centerville. Then they host Wayne, at Miamisburg.
Centerville 0-2 as well?
Centerville is 0-2 only because the Elks have also had a tough out-of-conference slate facing Lakota East, which they lost 35-20 in Week 1, and then they played at St. Xavier 20-7. 2 impressive schools out of the Cincinnati area. And then they go on the road to Carmel, Indiana, in Indianapolis, which is a major school.
Yeah. No, I actually so major that I know what it is and I've heard of it.
It's basically a college.
Right.
They have
a food court, a mall food court. Everybody's seen that on social media.
They've got like a laser or something crazy. They got a whole aerospace program or something over there.
Well,
I don't know. But
if you guys saw on my social media, I actually got to have a brief 5-second interaction with Kirk Herbstreit on Saturday at the Ohio State game. I asked him if he wanted to say anything to his Elks. He said, "Go Elks! tough one last night.
Tough one last night. And now there's no more rooting. Well, at least I think, because Chase, his son that is now a freshman at Michigan, played at St. X and was the quarterback. Hence why that was our game of the week last year. I got to be at that one.
Oh, wow.
That's
so cool.
It was really cool.
St. X in Nashville?
St. X in Cincinnati. That's where the Herb Streets went.
I thought they lived in Tennessee.
They do have the house in Nashville, but they also have a place here in Ohio.
Okay.
Because that's where, because remember the Amazon
Yes,
Prime?
and I thought he was always flying back to Tennessee every time.
Home from Nashville, Friday night in Ohio, where St. X was playing, then fly out to Denver for
Thursday night football.
Thursday night football, and then wherever.
Tallahassee
Texas,
for college game
wherever.
day.
And then back to Nashville, and then home on Nashville. Yeah, so Chase Herbstreit was the quarterback for St. X, the Bombers out of Cincinnati. And that was our game of our week, week 2, because Centerville made it Kirk Herbstreit Day in Centerville because it was at Centerville Stadium. So for the first time maybe ever,
crazy.
Our game of the week featured an out-of-area team only because, of course, of that, of the local connection with Herbstreit. And, of course, he was a part of our game of the week preview package. I got to do a Zoom with him. That was a blast.
I didn't know about any of that. That's so cool.
Yeah, St. X won that one pretty handily, too. Not 21. It was 34-10, so kind of a similar score. Let's see what Chase Herbstreit finished with in that game. 10 for 14, 104 yards and a touchdown.
Really, not a ton.
But how about he rushed 10 attempts, 82 yards on the ground with a long run of 39.
There you go.
And that's what was great about when I got a chance to talk to Kirk, talking about the similarities and like how much do you try to influence his game, or how much of what of his game do you think he tries to emulate? And Kirk was well, he's a way better runner than me because I couldn't run like anything. So
nobody really did a ton. Or I'm thinking the opposite. Nobody threw as much as they do now. Never mind.
Yeah, right. No, but actually, Kirk says that, but Kirk was actually a pretty mobile quarterback, especially when he was at Centerville. Yeah, he says he thinks that he tries to emulate his shiftiness, his twitch that he said. But Kirk obviously gave the credit to his son. Thinks, he's better than me at that. But what he thinks that he does well is have that elusiveness in the pocket. Yeah, I'll have to show you. We had some old Centerville highlights from Herbstreit back in the day. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, that was cool. So the rematch of that, obviously not featuring young Herbstreit. Centerville lost that one. So Centerville also looking for that first win when we talk about the G-Walk. Fairmont also looking for their first win. Northmont, new head coach there, Ben Ruley, taking over the program after Tony Broering stepped down. And surprisingly enough, Springfield also looking for their first win. One of this staple of our area. Again, 2 tough teams. Cincinnati team, extremely good every year. Winton Woods, week 1, they lost 21-14, and then they just lost to Walsh Jesuit 30-6. But now we're going to get a chance to see Springfield and Trotwood face off here in week 3. We're going to have highlights from that game. So Jeff Graham, Mo Douglas, 2 of our coaches who played in the NFL, going at each other now as head coaches of
that'll be a fun one. I have to think.
Yep.
I mean, big play after big play, unless those defenses can lock down.
Yeah, exceptional talent, so much speed and athleticism on both of those teams. So, and then obviously it just begins the gauntlet for then all of our G-Walk teams playing into the G-Walk, and we'll see who emerges as that conference champion. But great to see Trotwood starting 2-0. They're always a force to be reckoned with Coach Graham, at the helm, and they always have great talent too. They got some great talent up front too. Some D1 prospects. On
Demarcus Weiss that we've Jamarcus Weiss that we've been talking about. He's going to Purdue next year.
Yeah. Big so 10. and we'll play Jeff Graham too here now after the game against Fairmont. Obviously, giving all the respect to Dave Miller, but just what this game means for them to be able to play a high-level opponent and then still come out with a gritty win.
Oh yeah, it was definitely a fourth-quarter grit. We got guys that are seniors, and they are really committed to our program. They started back in January lifting, and it showed today because it was a tough fought game to the end, and I'm glad we pulled it out. It was a great effort for Fairmont. That's a great team. Dave is a well-coached team, and I love playing Fairmont each year.
All right, there it is. So Graham and company 2-0. Fairmont still looking for that first win. And we're going to have the highlights, though, from Springfield and Trotwood Madison, too, for week 3. So we're going to get a chance to see if they can make it 3-0 against a tough Wildcats team who always is sharp under Maurice Douglas. So, we'll see how things are looking up in Springfield. and plenty more games to talk about as well, including our game of the week for week 3. It will be me going out to that game. We mentioned Two Sports Overtime. It'll be Hutch Connerman coming out of the bullpen this weekend. Kayler has a exciting wedding to be at, so we're going to let her have the weekend off, and we'll be at the game. I'll be at the game, rather, for Xenia and Butler, a big MVL showdown, all that and more, and some of the other games that we have our eye on as well, kind of here after the break on the Operation Football Preview.
Welcome back to Operation Football Preview. We're continuing to talk about this week 3 that's coming up, and our game of the week this week features 2 teams out of the MVL that are definitely contenders for the league title. We've got Butler, who's 2-0, hosting Xenia, who's 1-1 after their loss to Troy, as we've mentioned a couple of times already. This game has been very competitive over the last several years. The last 2 have actually only been decided by a score. 1 score, Xenia coming off the win last year, 25-17. But over the last decade, they've played 7 times, and Xenia leads that 5-2.
Yeah, it's always a battle, as we mentioned, in these conference games, but specifically between these 2 programs. Coach Harden and Coach Keith do a great job of having these guys ready for this one. And it's been a week 3 game of the week, too, the last couple of years, just because of how much kind of anticipation is for these 2 teams, but it is kind of shocking to see Xenia in a situation coming in as a 1-1 opponent. Like we mentioned in before the break, falling in a tough 24-14 matchup to Troy. The Trojans with a big win there. Nothing against Troy, but I think a lot of people would have thought that would have been Xenia's to win, and surely Troy had other plans for that one. So plenty to talk about, too, with this game. And when you think about the way that game went last year in 2024, 25-17, Xenia won. It was just really the Deontay White game.
And he is back for his senior year. We'll hear from him in just a second.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns, 260 yards, 32 rushing attempts, and he had a 49-yard long as his longest rush was 49 yards. Had the hat trick. He's just incredible.
Both teams agreed that is going to be the focal point. Butler agreed they run well against us. Xenia agreed we run well against them. So that is something that's on the forefront of their minds going into this game on Friday.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, when you look at rushing yards too from Butler in that game, it was only 109 yards total. So maybe that is a point of emphasis now for them is being able to get back onto the ground. Obviously, they throw the ball.
I was going to say, Butler likes to spread it out
They
a little
like to
more.
spread it out. They like to throw. But obviously, if you're Xenia and you have Deontay White, they finished with 305 yards of team rushing, which is impressive for a high school football game.
300 yards is insane.
And he accounted for Deontay White
That's
accounts
like
for 260.
Dallas Cowboys defense allowance numbers.
Yeah, right. And, so it's going to be, and then only 21 passing yards. And I mean, why would you pass the
21
passing yards from Gavin McManus, who's a fantastic quarterback for Xenia, who of course graduated. Now they have former Penn Station Athlete of the Month, Gunnar Steffen's little brother, Gage Steffen, now at quarterback. So, but when the rock is working, it's working, and you go to that, and it'll be. We'll see if it goes the same way. Obviously, they like to rely on Deontay; he's their workhorse. But we'll see if Butler has an answer. But Butler's look really stout too in their first couple of games. When we look back at what they did on Friday night against Stebbins, it ended up being a lot closer of a game than I think anybody would have expected. Butler took a 24-0 lead heading into the fourth quarter. They then had a field goal, but Stebbins roared back with I'm sorry, I missed a 7 from Stebbins. It was 14-7 after the first quarter. Then Butler added a touchdown, then a field goal, and then another field goal. And then Stebbins was able to score 2 more touchdowns late in the fourth to make that a ball game. it was a 90-yard passing touchdown from Stebbins and then a 50-yard passing touchdown from Stebbins to make that a one-score game late in the fourth. So I'm sure it's something that Butler is looking to eliminate going into week 3. So you cannot give up big plays like that against this senior team.
And one thing that, even though it's only week 3, is on the forefront of both of their minds, as we'll hear from them in a moment, is the importance of this game when it comes to the MVL standings and vying for a potential MVL championship. Something that Butler, one of the Butler players said, I'm getting them all mixed up in my head now because I've talked to so many people in the last couple of days. The Butler player that we'll hear from said to me was, they're in our way. Xenia is in our way of going 10-0 and winning this league. And that's really the mindset that kind of both of these teams are embracing going into this. Xenia feels like they're underdogs. They feel like they have something to prove. They feel like, they're being slighted after their loss last week to Troy, and so they want to go out there and prove it. And so it's going to be, I think, Xenia's to take away, because they are bound and determined to bounce back.
Yeah, and when you look at, too, just quickly before we play this soundbite from the teams, 2023, it was Xenia in second place to Sydney in the Valley for the title, so they missed out on it. And then that was the 3-way tie between Troy, Tippecanoe, and Butler in the Miami division. They all finished 8-1, so that was Butler's last title in 2024. And last year, Xenia finishing 8-1, getting their vengeance and kicking home that Valley title. So in the last 2 years, each team has won, and now both looking to do it again. But plenty of implications, too, with so much on the line in the MVL.
I think we got something to prove against them. They're doubting us, and after coming off a loss, I think we got a lot to prove.
Butler's a good football team, and they do a really good job, especially on defense, of being sound offensively. They want to run the football, and they execute.
They're a very physical team, I feel like, and, some plays they might get the best of us, but we always got to come back the next play and, just go out there and show them.
Xenia's going to be tough. They're talented. We're going to have put in a great week of practice, be able to come out and execute and play with a lot of energy and passion on Friday night.
We like to both compete. Both teams compete. Both teams like to get scrappy, but we all want to win. So it's 2 winning teams going at it, so it can go either way.
I think that about sums it up.
There you go.
That last clip especially.
Yeah, and it's gonna be another great one, and we'll be on the sidelines for it. And then quickly, just to round out the end of this Operation Football slate of games for Week 3, we're also going to have Elder at Springboro. Of course, as we mentioned, it'll be the final out-of-conference game for a GWOC team. And the Panthers, they're 2-0. To me, they look like one of the most dominant teams in our area. I have them as the favorite to be the GWOC champion. And what better test than a 2-0 team out of the GCL South, now is what they're calling it. GCL Co-Ed has Alter and Samadad, and GCL South features Elder, LaSalle, St. X, and Moeller. And that Elder team has always been a tough team in years past. And, Springboro looking to try to come back after what they did last year. They fell 30-6 in 2024, lost 28-7 before that, 21-20 before that. And that was the most recent series. So Springboro looking for their first win over Elder. That should be a great one at Carrot Flight Field. As we mentioned, we'll also have Springfield at Trotwood, Bellbrook, and Valley View. That could have been
that's game of the week honorable mention.
Absolutely.
Right there.
2 powerhouse, basically the kings of the Swabble in the opposing divisions. Valley View has kind of owned the Buckeye side of the Swabble, the Buckeye division for the last couple of years. Bellbrook has obviously been dominant in the Southwestern. They're seeking now a 6th consecutive Swabble title out of the Southwestern division. So 2 opposing division opponents, but within the Southwestern Buckeye League. And I mean, that is, 2-0, 1-1 Valley View versus a 1-1 Bellbrook. Valley View coming off their first win, Bellbrook coming off their first win after 2 really heartbreaking losses for each one, both in different ways. Valley View lost 49-48 in overtime to Coldwater, but Bellbrook was wiped 21-0.
Didn't get on the board even.
By Tippecanoe. So, and then they both bounced back in pretty dominant fashion. So all eyes will be on that game as well. And this Swabble should be a great one. Like you mentioned, unofficial game of the week 2. And then we'll also round it out too with 2 more games in the MVO. Greenville at Piqua and Fairborn at Tippecanoe. So, someone is suffering their first loss in that game too. Fairborn 2-0, 2-0 Tippecanoe. Someone will leave as a loser in that one. Of course, all those games, all the highlights, scores, band and cheerleaders of the week as week 3 of Operation Football gets underway.
All right, Joey, looking forward to it. Yet not my wedding, by the way.
Not Kayler's
I'm
wedding.
a guest and one of my best friends for a long time's wedding this week. So I'm really excited for that. Appreciate you giving me the week off, Joey.
Can't miss a wedding.
And you're getting back out there on the field this week.
Yeah,
it'll be nice
it'll
for
be
you,
fun.
I think.
I'm excited. Being sports director is cool, but being out at the games, being in the communities, as you know, is nothing beats that.
Yeah.
And high school Friday night and the weather we've been having lately too. It's been fantastic. So
I feel like football this weekend too.
yeah, absolutely.
All right, looking forward to it.
All right. Well, that is it for Operation Football Preview Week 3. Again, join us at WDTN online, on air, social media. Click all those follows. Follow us, Kayler Smith, Joey DeBerardino. We're going to be bringing you all the action from the gridiron, and we'll see Kayler back out there for Week 4 Game of the Week, or a Adamus Game of the Week coming up next week. But first, it'll be Butler and Xenia, and we couldn't be more excited for that one. All these games and more. We'll see you then next week on the gridiron.